Every day, sometimes 3 or 4 days a week, there's a threat. A day later, another threat. A week later, another threat. Weeks later, more threats. Why do these threats happen? Welcome back to Give Me a Break. I should say the second half of the show. We already covered COVID on the first half, but if you haven't seen the first half of the show, you may have been hearing a lot of background noise. So we're gonna repeat some of the stuff. We're gonna repeat some of the stuff that you've heard on the first half. Maybe say, why are you gonna repeat the stuff in the first half we already heard it anyway? Well, because of the background noise. I can't even find freaking. I can't even find a background noise or call the background and just have me and you talk. We already got COVID covered, but we have but the question is, why are Texas schools seeing a rise in threats? Not only in Texas, but in other states. In other states, it's just basically, don't come to school unless you want to be blah, 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 blah. This is an article from a website. It's a Q&A. And we're probably going to spend a half hour, probably going to spend the second half doing this. Last month and in recent weeks, several North Texas campuses were in lockdowns. This was in North Texas. In South Texas, there was a threat of a school shooting. Schools across Texas and the country are grappling with a string of threats to disrupt classes for students whose education is already upended by the rising COVID cases, school closures, and staff shortages. In recent weeks, numerous North Texas campuses were in lockdowns because of viral threats of violence. Some teens are facing criminal charges of those threats. And each school day, the National Association of the School Resource Officers identifies at least 5 schools around the United States that receive threats of violence. That's a spokesman. His name is Jay Farlow. A number of threats schools have received during the current academic year is 5 times that physical typical years, according to the Violence Project, which is a non-profit research center. So Renton schools were on lockdown last week after an anonymous caller said a shooting would take place if a high school wasn't evacuated, according to the police. That was in December. A viral social media post encouraged students to disrupt class and riot, while another threat warned of a national school shooting day. And who do we blame for this? We blame TikTok. Frisco ISD canceled classes at Lone Star High School after a different post spread across the community. Urged families to not send their children to classes due to possible threats of violence. Here's where parents and educators will be asking themselves, why are schools experiencing a sudden increase of threats? It's because of the rise of positive COVID cases and staff shortages. So do we blame COVID? And so what do we blame? Well, we blame TikTok, COVID cases, and staff shortages. We blame those 3 things. And it means troubled students who might be needed support that are harder to identify. This is what the executive director said. We have kids and maybe in environments that are not good in the first place. Now they're not even getting a break in their day. Greg Miller retired as a deputy police officer, retired with the Dallas Police Department, and former Dallas ISD police chief. He works with the campuses across the state. But how do threats spread so quickly throughout the country? The problem is threats being made on social media is that in many schools across the country share similar or the exact same as hundreds of others, Miller said. So social media posts being targeting one school could be confused for another at an entirely different state. For threats encouraging students to riot, for example, had school districts in Forney, Louisville, Waco, and elsewhere looking to calm parents' concerns. Why make false threats? Well, the reasons may differ. Some students do it for the online cloud. That's where we blame TikTok for this. Remember December 17th? Remember the month after the school shooting, where more threats happened, and TikTok issued that challenge? That's basically the same thing. For instance, Bill and Preet worked with the police department in a particular school threat that led to a student who told him he wanted to find out how many social media followers said he could get for an Instagram account. I mean, it's a terroristic threat. You could be charged. Even if students intended it was a prank, they potentially face being charged with terroristic threat. The Texas criminal justice wants to classify anyone 17 or older as an adult. So older students who are arrested and charged and convicted for terroristic threat will face harsher backlash. When you go in for a job application, you're going to have to take a question that says, have you ever been convicted of felony? Miller said, as an employer in many instances, a game changer, a disqualifier. That's what we covered so far. But what can districts do to prevent students from making these threats in the future? When we come back, we'll give you the answer. So if you're just joining us, this is the second half of the show, and we're asking the question, why are Texas schools seeing a rise in threats? We're focusing on this state. But everyone's question on their minds. What can districts do to prevent students from making these threats again in the future? Classmates and staff speaking up when they notice a student acting suspicious is the key. That's what the officials say. It's important that each student have a positive relationship with a trusted adult. Someone they can go to and share things that are concerning them and are scaring them and are making them feel unsafe. It really can help us stop something before it even happens. Ensuring ample communication between school officials and police can help identify which students and parents need resources or support, which can dissipate future issues. Everyone said, oh, I knew that he was going to do that. But do you share with anyone? Meanwhile, educators and police need to probe with deeper reasons why students are making these threats to find out what's going on in their lives that's gotten them to this point, and how can they give students the help they need. Mental health's reality. It takes a lot of people, a lot of moving parts to get assistance to the kids that really need that help. So that's mainly what we blame. We blame three people. We blame COVID, we blame staff shortages, and we blame TikTok. But the days following that day, TikTok said, we have no responsibility. Look, I take this stuff very seriously. Very seriously. And if you don't believe me, you've not watched my show for 5 years. For 5 years on this show, I've talked about education. This crap was on the Dallas News. And every time I look up school threats every day, there's another one, and another one. But the other question is, what consequence can students in Texas face for threatening their schools? There's criminal charges. Even if students intend to prank, it's a terroristic threat. I mean, if you were to call up and say, if you were to go on social media and go, like, don't come into school tomorrow, otherwise you'll blah, 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 blah. I'm going blah, blah, blah. I don't want to post this on YouTube and get people look at me and go blah, 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 blah. The reason why these threats happen is because it's because of this, because of that. It's because of all these things. Again, it's the staff shortages, it's COVID, and it's TikTok. You want to get more followers on Instagram. You're thinking, oh, if you don't blah, 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 blah. But is there more school threats happening? Let's find out. 2 days ago, a 13-year-old girl was charged with a felony after allegedly threatening to shoot up Caddy Charter High School. School children of all ages need to know these threats to be taken seriously. Says Ted Heap in a Facebook post. This is again was in Texas. This was on Wednesday. Investigators say a threatening TikTok post landed a 13-year-old girl in custody. The girl allegedly threatened to shoot up her school, which we learned is Calvin Nams Charter in Katy. She was picked up Tuesday wearing pajamas and flip-flops and faces felony charges of making a terroristic threat. A 13-year-old is a juvenile. Video of her in handcuffs getting a lot of attention on social media. Shows Harris County Precinct 5 constable getting in a squad car. This is from the Twitter post. This is from Jason Miles. An alleged threat to shoot up a school, Katy, near Katy Carter Charter School, and a 13-year-old handcuffs. School children of all ages need to know these threats are taken very seriously. From Constable Ted Heap. The girl's face is blurred because of this. The Precinct 5 was notified after another student saw the thread on social media and platform on TikTok. The administrator from at the charter school said this was the first incident of its kind they had. However, social media threats have become increasingly problematic for districts nationwide. That's why I've been launched anonymous reporting systems and education initiatives. Qualblet said parents also have a role in monitoring online activities. Precinct 5 said the 13-year-old was charged with a connection with a threat in Katy and released to her parents while she awaits a possible juvenile court hearing. No weapons were found. But there was some shocking news about this. The 13-year-old girl's mom was removed from meeting after raising COVID policy concerns. Girl's face was blurred, so again, a 13-year-old making a threat, she's a juvenile. Take her to juvenile hall. Things need to happen. If your child witnessing threatening in a school, there's a lot of arrests. And another one, just today, 11 hours ago. This was 12 hours ago. By the Journal News, Butler County's local news. Threats to New Miami, Edgewood schools led to lockdowns. They were all put on a level 3 lockdown. Today's lockdown 10 a.m. and New Miami received email summons be coming up to the school starts June at 11 o'clock. Investigation emails is ongoing. And the same day, New Miami dismissed early due to a threat, unlike a threat at Edgewood. The one in New Miami did not match the correlated social media threat. So that's who we blame. We blame social media, we blame COVID, And we blame those staff shortages. That's who we blame. And who else is to blame? When we return, a recap of our first half. Of the first half of the show. We talked about the 3 instances we blame the government for. If you didn't watch the first half, I talked about the 3 instances that happened back in the 90s. 92, we have the Idaho standoff. In 93, the siege in Waco, Texas. In 95, there was the Oklahoma City bombing. And about almost a month ago, almost 2 months now, we're approaching the 2-month anniversary of the shooting at Waco. There is now a brand new lawsuit. Yeah, that's right. Y'all heard me. Again, there is a brand new lawsuit happening. Brand new. This time, another lawsuit is from Tate Marie's parents. And it happened on Thursday. The parents of Tate Marie was one of the 4 Oxford High School students in the November 30th shooting, have sued alleged shooter Ethan Crumbley and his parents along with 6 high school personnel. Their trial announced Thursday. The teachers were among the 6 employees targeted in a 39-page lawsuit which was filed by attorney Ben Johnson in Oakland County Circuit Court. The second lawsuit stemming from the shooting, which also wounded 7 people, including a teacher. The lawsuit was filed Thursday. The lawsuit, because they violated the Michigan Child Protection Law of 1975. It seeks more than $25,000, but don't specify an amount that the plaintiffs are seeking for. All the individuals named in the lawsuit, Johnson argued during a 90-minute press conference yet on Thursday, are mandatory reporters who were bound by law to call authorities when either company's alleged disturbing behavior surface, not just other school officials, as they all failed to do so. In addition to James and Jennifer Crumbley and their son, the suit names the dean of students Nicholas Ejak, counselors Pam Fine and Sean Hopkins, and 3 unarmed teachers. Crumbley's parents are charged with 4 counts of each voluntary manslaughter connected to the shooting, while the son faces 24 criminal counts, including terrorism and the first-degree murder. But in addition, the district last week issued clarifying details about events leading up and that day of school shooting at Oxford High to address rumors. Oxford Community Schools said officials were unaware of the suspect's social media presence until after November 30th. But in this latest lawsuit, in the Post last week, Superintendent Tim Doan wrote to the district will respond in detail to the false allegations and reckless statements made by Feiger. But has been asked by Oakland prosecutor not to unduly comment. But in this latest lawsuit, the first unarmed teacher is described as the one who sent Ethan Crumbley to the office on November 29th, the day before the shooting, after allegedly seeing him search for ammunition on his phone. Number 2, the second was the teacher who sent Ethan to the office on November 30th after allegedly discovering disturbing drawings he made on his math homework. This drawing and these statements were clearly so violent and disturbing, were obviously a cry for help, and openly expressed Ethan's thoughts of violence against himself and or others. The third teacher allegedly saw Ethan looking up violent videos on his phone. That's what the suit claimed. Johnson said there's one more legal hurdle in the lawsuit, the interpretation of governmental immunity cases in Michigan, which requires a finding of gross negligence in the fact of the problem. If he was sued in a private school, all he would have to prove is negligence, and that was a factor. Johnson called in his defense an atrocity of Michigan law. He said the governmental immunity is why he's not suing the Oxford Community Schools as an institution. In addition to the Myers, the suit was joined by Chad and Megan Gregory on behalf of their son Keegan, who was 15. He was in the bathroom with Justin Schilling. He ran past Tate Marie's body after escaping. Johnson said when Ethan Kremlin was calling the officer from 30th, he said he left his backpack in math class. By the time the meeting with his parents ended, the class era had changed, the lawyer said, but Kremlin's backpack was still in the classroom. But Johnson alleged that the counselor Sean Hopkins retrieved the bag from the first classroom to give it back to Crumbley. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office specified where Ethan allegedly kept the gun at school. Also on Thursday, Ethan Crumbley's defense team indicated would pursue an insanity defense in a one-filing Oakland County Circuit Court. Johnson said he doubted whether that would work. He cited his drawings, the attempts to cover up the drawings, along with the months of social media activity before the shooting, including Instagram posts of his 9mm 6-Sauer semi-automatic handgun 2 weeks prior to the shooting, with a message read, "This is the gun I'm going to use." That's who we blame. We blame the new people in this. The first lawsuit and the second lawsuit. First lawsuit being the superintendent and the principal. The other one would be the students and the counselor. 11 people in this. Now, again, on my last one, we blame the government for these big things. We blame the government for the Idaho standoff. We blame the government for the Waco. We blame the government for the Oklahoma City bombing. That's who we blame. But during the Oklahoma City bombing, there was one other suspect. There was 3 people. You have Timothy McVeigh, you have Terry Nichols, and you also have James Nichols. Now, James Nichols lived in Michigan, Decker, Michigan. He raided a farm. But, it hasn't come there. Back in 1988, the government, the informant claimed that Nichols drew a sketch of the building and said technology exists to make a mega bomb and blow it on the building. But he had a magazine in there. If you want to see that Dateline interview, we'll have it up top. Again, we'll have the video up top for you. The James Nichols interview back in 1995 with Chris Hansen on Dateline. We're also going to have the Maury episode of the Waco incident. We're also going to have the interview with Tom Burke, and Chris Hansen interview with the FBI agent. We're also going to have Sam Nelson's interview. All of those are going to be up top. That's the blame game here. That's who we blame. We blame the government for everything that happened. The government shot up an unarmed woman in Idaho. Government burned innocent people in Waco. The government blew up the building. We don't know yet. I wasn't born in those years, so I have to follow what James says. You may be entitled to your opinion. Okay. Do whatever you need to do. I'll be back in a moment. One more thing. Jeffrey Feiger's first lawsuit is going to be held on pause because of the allegations. If it comes back on, we'll bring in the very latest. And this lawsuit is still being investigated, and we'll keep you posted on this. But tomorrow, which is today, we're going to be talking about the 15 YouTubers that have dropped out of school. That's right, you heard me, 15 YouTubers. They dropped out of school. All because they wanted to YouTube. We'll give you the names and we'll give you the reasons. That's Saturday. That's all for the second half of Give Me a Break Friday. Going to Saturday. See you again for Give Me a Break Saturday. And for all of us here at YouTube, good night.